What's up, guys? George back again to do another Discog video on a wickedly underrated band from the mid to late 80s, I guess, and that's the Four Horsemen. I first got a, I guess, glimpse of the Four Horsemen back in, I guess, 87, 88, when I saw James Hetfield wearing a Four Horsemen t-shirt. Um, Back then, pre-internet, you couldn't just hop online and see, uh, what that logo was or anything. So I always wrote it down. I remember writing it down and ended up finding the first EP um, on vinyl, I think it was. And I just picked it up. And I really dug it. I thought it sounded kind of a mix between AC/DC and like a 70s thing like Status Quo or with a little southern thrown in. Um, the Four Horsemen was formed by Stephen Harris, whose stage name was Haggis in the band. I think he had been a member of like Zodiac Mind Warp or something like that. And I know he was a bass player, a touring bass player for the Cult at one point, prior to the Four Horsemen. But I don't know. They had that weird, 70s mix with the 80s rock sound. And Frank Starr was the vocalist, who was in, I think, a band called Alien in the mid 80s, early 80s, 84, 85. They put a record out like Sonic Fantasy or something like that, um, which I own, but I can't remember ever really digging that record. But I think he sounds a lot different on that too. So, anyway. They went on and released their first EP just called The Four Horsemen, which is this one. Um, and I liked it. I thought it was good. And then Rick Rubin got a hold of him and signed him to Def America and released Nobody Said It Was Easy. Um, I bought this the day it came out, and I thought it was an amazing album. Uh, just good old fashioned rock and roll, really, with 70s twang to it, kind of like a heavy, I don't know, I don't want to say Skinner, but just that a little bit of a southern thing to it, but really good. I mean, I loved every song on it. And then unfortunately, after this record came out, I guess Frank had some, attitude issues or whatever. But uh, I remember like Haggis had left the band and just a bunch of bullshit that went on. There was a time too that Frank was busted. He got busted, for drug charges. He spent it like a year or two in jail, or a little over a year in jail. So that kind of doused the whole touring aspect of the Four Horsemen. They couldn't do anything without them, really. And then after that, obviously, like the Seattle thing happened, so they were gone. They were done as far as that goes. As far as the them being signed as well, they were dropped. But um, they did reform in '94. Uh, and recorded an album called Getting Pretty Good at Barely Getting By, which is another amazing record. While they were recording this record, the original drummer, Dimwit, passed away, drug overdose. So they got Chuck Biscuits in to finish off the album, Chuck from Danzig. And again, it was another classic record. No Haggis this time. Dave Lismy was basically the original member with Frank that did that record. And I guess Dave wrote probably all the songs, I would think. and they're amazing. They opened the album with "Still Alive and Well" from Johnny Winter and Rick Derringer. And after that, it's just all original stuff. All, again, the whole album is fantastic. And then upon album's release, or right before the album was released, Frank was hit by a drunk driver on Sunset Strip on a motorcycle, and had like really bad head trauma. Was in a coma for a long time. I want to say he was in a coma for at least 3 years, 3 or 4 years. I think it happened in '96 and he died in '99. And then obviously the band broke up again. But in the middle of that, they had recorded a record. I guess Haggis had recorded a record under the Four Horsemen moniker that was never released, and that is Daylight Again. Now you can get all these on the fourhorsemen.com. These have all been reissued by the band themselves with all bonus tracks and the whole 9 yards. So basically on the self-titled EP you get demos of Rockin' Is My Business, a song called The Needle, Born to Boogie, Ain't Telling Me, and Bring On the Girls, all of which are unreleased. And they sound killer, I think. It's just your classic Four Horsemen sound. The Nobody Said It Was Easy record also has studio outtakes on it as well. She's Got It, Homesick Blues, and Born to Boogie. But it's a different version. Glasses here. Yes, She's Got Us is an old tune that didn't make the cut when it was being decided which songs to mix for the inclusion of the final album, which Dimwit wrote that one. Homesick Blues harmonica version, written by Haggis, and then Born to Boogie. This is a rare songwriting contribution from Frank, including his account of the first time he and Haggis met. So you get like the whole story and everything in here as well. These were released a couple years ago on CD, and right now they are in the final pressing of it's at the plant now, but they're reissuing this on vinyl, 2LP vinyl, with the original album on remastered on the first album, and then the second album is going to be loaded with unreleased tracks that aren't on here, from what I understand. Some more studio stuff. Again, here's Daylight Again, and this is the Four Horsemen basically without Frank Starr. I forget who it was. Tim Beattie was the lead vocalist on this, along with Haggis, Dave Lismy, Les Warner, and Dwayne Young on bass. And there's the picture of the Four Horsemen. Now, this was recorded, I think, before. Yeah, this was recorded before Getting Pretty Good at Barely Getting By. This was recorded in '93, but never released. And it contains 10 songs that are pretty killer. A little different sounding, not as rockin' as the first album. More of a, I don't know, I want to say a Black Crowes type thing. But really cool. Trailer Park Boogie I really liked on this one. But again, you can get that on fourhorsemen.com. And then recently they released, I think within the last couple months, they released the reissue of Getting Pretty Good at Barely Getting By, which is a fantastic record. And the bonus tracks on here are demo versions of Living These Blues, Keep Your Life, and Hit the Road, which are, all three are fantastic. So I'm hoping at some point they do a reissue of this on vinyl, since this was never released on vinyl. But again, you can get all four of these on the Four Horsemen's website. Plus there's some live albums up there too that I haven't picked up yet. Live DVD, and a like a full-length kind of anthology DVD set, which I picked up a couple years back. That's fantastic as well. It has all their videos on it. Because Haggis and Dave have been keeping the band alive, really, through their website and through these reissues, and I'm glad they do. Because, like I said, this band was definitely way underrated. Should have gotten their due. Really good band, I always thought. It's unfortunate Frank had that bust, and after the first album came out, that kind of did away with them being able to tour and back the album, and it sucks. They just had some pretty bad luck as a band. It's with Dimwit, which was his name was Ken Montgomery, and Ken, obviously, Ken, if you didn't know, Dimwit is Chuck Biscuit's brother in real life, so that's why Chuck finished off the album. They were both great drummers, but Dimwit was a really fun drummer to listen to. Good looking dude. As far as the being in a band goes, he had a cool look to him. I think he was a heavier set guy from what I remember, but it's unfortunate. And then obviously Frank's death, motorcycle accident and death. That sucks, because I think Frank was one of those guys that he might have had an attitude problem or a drug problem or whatever, but he seemed like a fun guy to hang out with, and it's unfortunate that they had the luck that they had. So I would definitely, I think the last time they were in a movie, I think, actually, not in it, the band itself, but they were on the soundtrack a couple of years ago for the G.I. Joe Retaliation soundtrack, which was, I remember my son watching that on DVD and hearing Back in Business Again off of this album in that movie, and I was like, holy shit. So that was cool to hear. But and after Frank had died, after Frank was in the accident, they did go on tour for a little bit, with Ron Young on vocals from Little Caesar. And I'd like to hear Dave and Haggis do a record with Ron Young, and have maybe a new Four Horsemen record. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but one could hope. I think it'd be cool, although I just think Dave's an amazing songwriter, going by this album alone. Every song on there I thought was fantastic. Rock and roll tune, for a heavier rock and roll tune. But if you haven't heard the Four Horsemen or haven't heard some of these other records other than the first album, I would definitely suggest checking out the fourhorsemen.com. Maybe picking up some of these. The vinyl's still available. It hasn't been shipped out yet, but I think it's coming soon from what I understand. They're waiting for the pressing plant to finish it up. And like I said, hopefully they'll be getting pretty good on vinyl at some point. We'll see, but Man, what a cool band. It's a shame that they had the history that they did. Uh, some bad luck, uh, which sucks. But maybe at some point Haggis and Dave will get together and write a new record with Ron Young. I think that would be fun. I don't know if it'll ever happen. It's doubtful, but you never know. So definitely check out the Four Horsemen. Um, check out their website. Definitely show them some love, man. What a great band. Very underrated, my personal opinion, but check them out. Anyway, that is it. I'll have some new reviews after Memorial Day. I'm going to take the rest of this week off. I might just do a LP update. I do have some stuff coming that I'm kind of trying to wait on. Um, but if I don't see you all until after the holiday weekend, you all have a safe and happy Memorial Day, 3-day weekend. I'm chilling, and that's about it. So I'll talk to you all real soon. Peace.